10, 9, ignition sequence start. All engines are running.
Roger, the clock is operating. We're underway.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And as we work our way through the checklist, it's time once again for Kerbalcast episode 34. Set the thrusters to 73%-ish.
Thrusters at maximum.
Stop trying to open the hatch, man. I don't know why it's stuck. We'll figure it out later.
And thanks for joining us in our program today. Our command module pilot, that's CMP.
Nostromo.
And I am your LMP, lunar module pilot. Coming up in today's program,
You hear our progress in the game.
and we'll have this week's mission briefing, which is letters, your letters, and also the latest Kerbal news.
Including an audio letter from Thomas Eccles.
And another episode of A Kerbal Life by Amy Kettlewell.
And we have our winners of Gimme the Code.
Give me the code. The entries for Gimme the Code have been tweeted out all week long. And
Yeah.
I am pleased to say that we actually got more than two.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
It's
it-
nice.
Well, think about it. If we have two codes to give away. And for those who may not know what we're talking about, there is an app that you can get. It's for your iPad. Our understanding is the Android version of it is coming. Mm-hmm. But it is a way to control Kerbal Space Program from your iPad or iPhone. And it's called Custom Control Pad. We had mentioned it a few episodes back, and then last episode we actually did a review of it. Well, the people that make Custom Control Pad were nice enough to send us a couple of free codes, and we're giving those away. Nos came up with the brilliant idea of
Like all my ideas.
yeah, and they're all brilliant. But see, yours are brilliant, mine are $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But anyway, he came up with the idea of send us an email, and the headline, the subject line.
We're going to tell them how to do it because it's too late now.
No, I'm explaining.
Oh, okay.
See, this is the episode review.
Yeah.
This is the welcome back to the program already in progress.
For everyone hearing these instructions, don't bother following them because it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. But he said, send us an email, and in the subject line, just say, "Gimme the code," GIMME, gimme the code. And we had several people write in. We also said, if you can, please send us a screenshot. If we got a screenshot, we tweeted that out as well. We have several entries, and I did something that I rarely do. I went to the crafts store, and I got, honestly, you know what they look like? They look like little tiny vanilla wafers. They are little round circles, like poker chips or something.
Yeah.
And what I did was every one of them, I've written somebody's name on it. Somebody who wrote in and said, "Hey, give me the code." And since this is audio and you can't see it, that is that's the pile that we're going to be drawing from later, and we're going to do that at the end of the program. But we have two codes to give away, and I'm gonna stir them up. I'm gonna stir them up right good, and then we will give them out. Okay.
All right.
Very good. Before we get started full blown into our progress, I have a story I must tell you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
In order to tell this story, first of all, I need your visual skills. Okay.
You're going to need to rip out my own eyes.
I'm going to need, yes.
And
yes.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Yes. We're doing Oedipus.
Yep.
Okay. We're doing Oedipus. I'm going to take out your eyes and stomp on them.
Oh, that's one of the better Oedipus things we could do.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, I'm not going to say what he, it's a good thing considering what he did that made him rip out his eyes. I'm not going to mention what he could have ripped off instead.
Uh-huh.
If you've had to study Oedipus in school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, visual skills. Last program, I told you that for Christmas I was given 2 Kerbal t-shirts.
Yes.
Last episode, I was wearing one of them. It was a white shirt. It had Jebediah Kerman on it, standing next to a flag, and on the flag it said Kerbal Space Program.
Uh-huh.
I told you I had a different shirt.
A second shirt.
That's what I'm wearing right now.
Your wardrobe now consists of 3 garments.
Yes, I now have 3 garments.
2 of them are Kerbal shirts.
All right, describe the shirt I am now wearing.
It is a blue shirt. Now, if you were to look at it like it was a shirt
If you were to look at the shirt like it was a shirt?
Yes, because we wouldn't want to be judgmental.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah.
at the there's a decal at the middle of it, and if you were looking at the person wearing the shirt, there's a letter I in black, kind of block font, and then an explosion next to the I, and then below both of those is the Kerbal Space Program
Okay,
logo.
I should have described this.
No, I'm being
You
very
so
descriptive.
complicated
It says I explosions Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, you know the shirts that say "I heart something," you
Yeah.
know, like I heart Pekingese. Well, this is I and then a big explosion and Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
It's our version of I heart. It's I explode.
Who makes that shirt?
The Kerbal shirt maker people.
It's-
I have no idea.
Okay, I don't know. I just thought, you know.
There's this problem.
I didn't know if this was a plug or we're
my
just bragging.
My head doesn't turn enough to see the tag.
It's on the front of his shirt.
Now, who makes it?
Yes.
Where?
Right there.
Oh,
the only other thing on the shirt that I didn't describe.
Okay, now I have to read it upside down. Created by Ultimate Random Banana?
Yeah, good enough.
Okay,
All right, good enough.
Ultimate Random Banana.
This is quality radio we're doing right now.
Boy. You know, I have a feeling our audience just halved.
Nominate us for Podcaster
Yeah.
of the Year. I know we've only begun, but let's get 2015 going.
My phone, the podcast app on my phone has two buttons next to the play button, and it says it's 15 with a little swirly arrow. And if you tap it, it advances 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
The number of people right now that are furiously tapping the 15 button,
Yeah.
there's probably more than two, I would
I'd say every
imagine.
15 seconds we talk about
Okay.
the shirt again.
Well, anyway, the point is, this shirt is what caused the story I am about to tell you.
Oh, okay.
Okay? It was Wednesday a week ago. Okay?
Uh-huh.
I went to Best Buy. I come walking in the door, and I was wearing this shirt.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, you know, Best Buy, just like Walmart, they have the greeter, you know, the person who sits at the desk at the front door. And when you walk in, it's, "Hi, thanks for coming to Best Buy."
Yeah.
You know, for the people who forgot that they were in Best Buy as they walked into it.
Uh-huh.
There was a guy, and, you know, as I walked in, and the guy said, "Hi, welcome to, dude, Kerbal Space Program."
Did he say anything else?
Yes, he did. Well, first thing he did was he gave me a fist bump.
Okay.
Or as the idiots at a certain unnamed news channel would call it, a terrorist fist bump.
Oh, all right.
You've heard that story, right?
No.
You've never heard about the terrorist fist bump?
No.
Google it.
Okay, I'll go.
It is the height of idiocy.
You know, the nice part about fist bumps is they spread 1/20th of the germs of a handshake.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So a handshake is 20 times more germy than a fist bump?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Well, he was health conscious, too.
Yeah, he was. Very health conscious gentleman there greeting you at Best Buy.
But this is one of the few times I've actually, you know, I've gone out in public since I've gotten my Kerbal shirts for Christmas,
Yeah,
okay?
because you have shirts now.
Because I have shirts now. Before I was going out bare-chested. And by bare, I mean I'm covered with hair.
That's why the greeter.
So I look like a giant bear.
That's why the greeters are there, so they won't let you in.
That's right.
Because otherwise you would have gotten at
Hey,
least.
the shirtless guy's here.
Yeah.
The shirtless fat guy's here. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're closed.
Okay, so
But it's 5.
what happened post fist bump?
Okay, anyway, so he went, dude, Kerbal Space Program, and he fist bumped it.
Yeah.
Fist bumped me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you play Kerbal? And he's, oh yeah, man, I love that game. Oh, that game is so cool. Yeah, all right. And I said, because this is the first time I know people that play Kerbal Space Program from emails that we've gotten.
Yeah.
I know you, and you play Kerbal Space Program, but I have in the great wild unknown, I have yet to run into somebody,
A wild Kerbaler.
a wild Kerbal. Yeah, I've never run into a Kerbaler in the wild.
Walking through the tall grass and
Okay.
you encounter one.
Most people, when they talk about, you know, yeah, I love video games, and I go, you ever heard of a game called Kerbal Space Program? No.
Get out of my house.
Yeah. Why are you in my house in
Yeah.
the first place?
Go get a shirt.
Anyway, so he was like, yeah, oh dude, I love that game. And I said, you know, this is the first person I've ever met that likes Kerbal. And it's because of the shirt, you know, because of the shirt.
Yeah.
The shirt's kind of like a giant flag saying, you know, hey, you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, and I said, this is the first time I've met somebody in the wild that likes Kerbal Space Program. And he said, dude, everybody here plays it. And I said, everybody at the Best Buy? And he said, yeah, everybody here plays the game. We all love it. Which, you know, yay, right? So now I'm one of the cool kids. I'm
Yeah,
the
there you go.
popular kid.
Yeah.
And I said, well, are you aware that the game has a podcast? And he says, no, I didn't. And I said, well, the game has a podcast. In fact, it has one and only one podcast. And guess who does it? And he was like, dude, no way.
Yeah.
He said dude a lot. Anyway,
Dude's
but
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
the dude abides.
I'd say dude a lot.
Yeah.
I'm cool with dude.
You know, all the dude ever wanted was his rug back.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my story. I actually ran into, what would you call them? A coven of wild kerblers?
Like a
A
Kerbal
herd?
coven?
A Kerbal coven?
Yeah.
A herd of kerblers? A curb herd?
No, an explosion of Kerbalers.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as Abbott and Costello used to do, you know, herd of cows. Yeah, I've heard of them. There's
Yeah.
a bunch right there. No, herd of cows. Yeah, there's a bunch right there. Get on. Who's on first? Okay, anyway, that was my story.
Yeah, okay.
I came home. I mean, I was like, I wanted to fist bump somebody.
Yeah.
Because I came home and I was like, I met someone in public
Yeah,
that likes
I mean-
Kerbal Space. It's this shirt and the other one, I guess. I haven't worn it out in public yet. But it's like it flushes out the people that see it and actually know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a guy with a Kerbal shirt at Gen Con, and I was like, oh, hey.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it had a giant Jeb head on it.
Really?
Yeah, it was a shirt with a giant Jeb head.
Did you tell me or did I just forget that?
I don't remember. Gen Con's a blur. It's a wild weekend.
There you
You're
go.
rolling a ton of dice. You're
Did-
playing
did-
cards. You don't even know what's happening anymore.
Okay, here I'm going to toss out a reference. Did you have a threesome with a girl in a Sailor Moon costume?
I don't even know what that's referring.
If you watch Big Bang Theory, you get it.
Oh,
So
okay.
anyway, okay. So
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah, all right.
That was okay. So that's my big story. Let's do progress report. I went first last time, so I will open the door for you.
Okay.
Please inform us of your progress.
I got an hour count for you.
You got a what?
I got an hour count for you.
Okay,
0.
0.
I didn't get any play this week.
Oh, I thought you were. I thought your girlfriend was off as at a quilting party and you,
No, it's a quitting party. She quit her job, so I was there
it's a quilting party.
Yeah, it's a quilting party. She was quitting her job to throw this quilting party.
Yeah,
No,
and she
no.
made a big quilt that said, you know, like
Yeah, this the way my weeks work out is sometimes I
Right.
get really short weekends, sometimes I
Right.
get really long ones, so I can either put in a lot of hours or barely any. And this one is just one of those hectic ones. I came
Really?
off of like doing 20-hour shifts. In
hey, do you know what we
other
could do?
cities.
You know what we could do? We could do a hypothetical progress report.
Oh yeah.
You could tell me all the progress you hypothetically have.
Oh, okay. All right. Ask me again.
Okay. How much progress did you hypothetically have?
A lot.
Let's see. You rendezvoused.
And I
You went to Jewel.
I rendezvoused the VAB into the launch pad.
Oh,
so
just
now I
to
could,
drive the listeners nuts. Let me say this: you went to Jewel and all its planets.
and all its planets.
Moons.
I upgraded.
I know
the,
they're moons.
I upgraded the the launch pad to where
Mm-hmm.
it's attached to the VAB, so I don't have to move the rockets anymore. They just launch straight from assembly.
Okay.
I can actually, if I put parts on as it's launching, it's pretty cool. The runway I made vertical. Instead of going on the horizon, it goes straight up, so it's like just a really tall, weird, launch pad. I turned the Kerbalteria. Now
The Kerbalteria.
serves Salisbury steak because we missed that so much from high school.
Well, see, I heard that they made a mean pepper steak. So.
Yeah. So and the partridge and a pear tree.
A partridge and a. Do they serve that too at the Kerbalteria?
When we know what it is, we do. But yeah, I haven't had any time with it. I want to give it another, give it the old college try again after my, riveting, exciting, enjoyable experience I had this last week or
Right.
the week before.
Right.
So I'm going to give it another try. I just haven't had any time yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been
Okay.
hectic.
You
I'm
can-
actually shipping out again tomorrow. So.
You can be honest with us. You went to the quilting party, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I brought my, I brought
You were
all my.
working on those squares.
I had my threads and my bobbins. It's funny. I've made a quilt.
Have you really?
Yeah, I've actually made a quilt.
Really?
Yeah, I've made my own quilt. I was in home economics class.
Can we do a segment called "How to Make an American Quilt"?
Yeah, quilting podcast, Quiltercast.
I am just references left and right.
Yeah.
Just bam, bam,
You're
bam,
on-
bam, 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 bam.
You're on fire.
I'm on fire.
Yeah, that's all the progress I have.
Okay. Actually, allow me to say this. If Squad is listening, they are probably glad to hear that you do not have any progress this past week, because you talked about 0.90 in the last episode.
I was disgruntled.
You were disgruntled.
Yeah.
And that actually generated some letters.
Oh,
people talking about
we're pushing
that.
Controversy now. That's the kind of journalism standard we're doing.
We're breeding controversy.
So,
do you know what? In addition to my went to Best Buy and fist bumped a fellow Kerbaler.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You know what my other non-Kerbal progress of the week was?
What?
I have now seen Interstellar 4 times.
Oh wow!
I went to see Interstellar
Still
again.
in theaters?
Yeah.
Oh,
still in theaters.
Okay.
It's no longer in IMAX. I've seen it 3 times in IMAX, and I've seen it once in standard. Mm-hmm. Do you remember you made the comment to me that the volume at certain points was so overwhelming that it's hard to hear bits of dialogue?
Yeah.
I was actually picking up dialogues for the first time. And I've seen them, and this is the 4th time I've seen it. For the first time, there was actual parts where I was hearing dialogue going, oh, I never heard that.
Oh, they're related.
Yeah, there's a website that I love. It's called editingroom.com. And what they do is they post parody versions of scripts. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And they're pretty good about, when a movie opens, they're pretty good about having a parody script up fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And the Interstellar parody script that they put up described the sound at one point of, if I remember correctly, it was a herd of elephants giving birth to elephants on a giant organ, like a giant church organ.
Yeah.
Because there were points in that movie where it was, like fillings were falling out of your head.
Overwhelming.
What I would like to do, my understanding is that the Blu-ray of Interstellar is going to be sometime in March. I don't think that's nailed down. I don't think that's a hard date yet.
Yeah.
But they're estimating it's probably a March release. We may actually go back and do another segment on Interstellar. And the reason I say that is I've seen it 4 times now.
Yeah.
And in case anyone's panicking, no spoilers. There will be no spoilers coming out of my mouth. But watching it the 4th time, right towards the end, there's a part at the end which is very much open to interpretation. See how general I'm speaking? I'm being very careful.
Yep.
There is some stuff that happens at the end that is very much open to interpretation. I was sitting there in the theater, and it was like a bolt of lightning hit me. Because all of a sudden I understood something, or I had a theory of what was going on that was so far and above what I'd had a theory of before. And I was thinking, when it comes out on Blu-ray, probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you and I to sit down and watch it again. And maybe do kind of a follow-up segment, because there are some things in there, some ideas that I've kind of come up with. I think I understand some more of it. I think I've got it on a much deeper level now than I had before, which you can tell right there is a good movie if you watch it a lot and, you keep taking things out of it.
Yeah.
And also, not that he would be listening, but if Christopher Nolan is listening, I saw Dark Knight Rises 6 times. I saw Interstellar 4 times. I deserve at least a phone call. Call me. Come on. At the very least, recommend me to Anne Hathaway. That's all I'm going to say.
Send him a shirt.
Yeah, just send me a shirt.
he gives wild shirt endorsements on this podcast.
That's right. This is the Kerbal Fashion Show.
Yeah.
So let's see. What are we doing? We're doing my progress now,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Last time we spoke, you remember I told you that I had some very bad misadventures around Jewel.
Yeah.
While trying to bring in a tanker, I ended up overshooting my manned ship. We went right past Jewel while I was trying to bring the tanker in. And I told you that just kind of for fun, because the work factor was starting to get too high as far as Jewel went, I decided to go back to the Mun. Well, I went to the Mun and came back, and I did all that before we recorded our last episode. At the time we were recording the last episode, I had another ship and lander that was in orbit around the Mun. But I had yet to land. That's where I was. That's where my save was. Shortly after we recorded our last segment, I went back, picked up the game, and I've got a very, I've told you this before. I've got a very small lander, which is monopropellant only. Extremely tiny. But on something like the Mun or Minmus and other ones that are comparable to that, that little teeny tiny lander is all you need. Well, there's, I believe it is the Northwest Crater. But it's, if you look at the Mun, it's kind of the round dark circle that almost makes it look like the Death Star. Off to the side of that, there is a very long, narrow canyon. And in fact, if you look at the biome, if you have something like NecJeb, or if you have something like Kerbal Engineering, it'll tell you what the biome is. Under biome, it shows up as canyon. Okay. It is not especially difficult to land in that it's fairly long. The only problem is that the walls, they go from very steep to kind of gradually flatten out. And there's only kind of a very narrow little spot down towards the bottom where you can really land and be somewhat level. And also, because it is a canyon, if you're going to land in it, you don't have a lot of room to maneuver either to the left or to the right. Okay, I mean, you have to pretty much pick a midpoint as you come in over the canyon. You have to come kind of in a straight line over the canyon and then bring it down. And again, you need to try and hit that fairly flat area at the bottom, which is very small.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I did. And anybody who follows our Twitter feed has seen pictures of it, because I tweeted out some pictures. Once you're actually down in that canyon and you start looking around, the walls of the thing are so tall, they're so high above you, and they extend so far to the horizon in both directions. It really is. I don't use this word often, but it's majestic.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's one of those, it's Kerbal. There are moments when you're looking at the game and you think, oh my God, that's incredible. This is one of those moments where you're looking at that just going, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm trying to remember the first time I did, my first Mun landing was Jeb. This would be my second Mun landing, and that's since 0.90. The second one, I believe it was Bill. Who's this? You know how they've changed it now to where one's a pilot and one's an engineer and one's a scientist?
Yeah.
The second one I sent was the scientist. I believe it's Bob. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would need to look. But anyway, I sent the scientist on the second one. So anyway, and I'm assuming it's Bob. I'm just going to say Bob. And I may be wrong. But anyway, Bob. Bob does his EVA. And he gets out, and a very short distance from where I landed is this giant boulder. A boulder that is probably bigger than the lander itself. And I think, okay, that'll be fun. I'm going to go to the boulder. And as I approached the boulder, I thought to myself, you know what would be really cool is I'm going to jump up and I'm going to stand on top of the boulder and I'm going to look around and I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to tweet that out. So I get to the boulder, I jump up, I go up and over, I start to come down, I'm right at the very top of the boulder, and I keep going.
Oh.
The boulder, for some reason, and I don't know if this is every boulder in the game.
Yeah, isn't clipped.
It has no, in terms of substance, it doesn't, I mean, you can't stand on them. You can actually walk right through them.
Oh.
So what I ended up doing instead, I tweeted out a screenshot where it's Bob, and he's standing half in and half out of the boulder. And the caption I sent out was, need to get a closer look.
Yeah. Between a boulder and a Bob place.
There you go. Very good. Very good. But yeah, you can't stand on top of a boulder.
Huh.
Which I thought you would be able to.
Yeah.
But you can't. But anyway, so I did that. I went back to the lander, fired up the lander, went up in orbit. The little lander that I'm telling you about, one of the nice things about it is it's extremely maneuverable, especially when you're wanting to do rendezvous. I mean, you can spin on a dime. And because it is so small, when you do get, you remember I told you I've been using the senior docking ports? Mm-hmm. When you get the 2 senior docking ports close enough, you can pretty much take your hands off the keyboard because the magnetism will
There's enough to pull.
it will kind of like automatically align the 2 craft and pull the smaller one in, and then you have rendezvoused and docked. So anyway, so that's what I did. I've been to the Mun and back twice. And I also mentioned in the last segment, in the last podcast episode, that I had set my sights on Eve again. You remember I told you that in the past, anytime I've ever gone to Eve and gotten back from it, it's always been by the skin of my teeth. It's always been, boy, I was lucky to get out of there alive. So I decided, because I've been spending so much time going to Jewel, I decided, well, I'm gonna try and go to Eve. First thing that was difficult, I have been going to Jewel so much that my interplanetary transfer routine or skills or whatever
like habits
are all based on a planet that is further out than I am. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to ejecting from the Kerbin system in the direction of travel. Mm-hmm. Eve, on the other hand, is closer in to the sun than Kerbin is. So you have to eject from the Kerbin system more or less in the opposite direction. That took me a little bit of, because I tend to eyeball it. Mm-hmm. And I had gotten so used to, you remember I told you, I've gotten to the point with Jewel where I can eyeball it. And I mean, I can almost, even if I try not to, I end up with a Jewel encounter.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if I'm trying to get to a planet further out than Jewel,
You'll
I
pass
end up
by
with,
Jewel.
I end up with a Jewel encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am all of a sudden trying to gauge an interplanetary transfer to Eve, and all of a sudden, all that dead reckoning that I was used to using was just useless. I had to kind of relearn how to estimate my transfer window to a planet that's closer in. But anyway, I finally got that taken care of. Okay, great. So I did the transfer. I got to Eve. Eve, because it's closer, a lot easier to get to. It's a lot easier to create a stable orbit. Eve's orbit, or I should say Eve's atmosphere, is fairly thick, and in Kerbin, the atmosphere goes to about 70,000. Mm-hmm. Well, with Eve, it's about 90,000.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to play around with this, but I discovered that if you set your periapsis on first approach, if you set it at about 55,000, that will aerobrake you into a stable orbit. Now, obviously, when you swing around and hit your apoapsis, you've got to raise your periapsis, or else you're going to, on the next pass, you're going to find yourself in the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
But I came in, I aerobraked. Other than the fuel I had to use to raise my periapsis, I did not use any fuel whatsoever to get into orbit around Eve. Okay, I get into Eve orbit. I took the big Mamma Jamma lander. Remember, trademark Biff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I took the big. It's a big lander. It's got big engines on it. I think they're the. I can't remember their designation, but they're the ones that have 650 thrust. And I've got.
Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about.
Trying to remember. I think I've got 6 of them. I'm not positive. I think I've got 6 of them, and they're, as usual. The way I design, I typically do a center fuel tank, and then I do 6 symmetry around that. Mm-hmm. The center fuel tank does not have an engine on it. Because remember, the center fuel tank, I have a hitchhiker's capsule, mm-hmm. And that's what more or less touches. That's part of what touches the ground.
Yeah,
and that way I don't have to worry about things like ladders, right? So anyway, so it's a fuel tank, the hitchhiker's container under the fuel tank, then on top of it a capsule, and then 6 symmetry around it, 6 more fuel tanks. And 6 engines, and again, these engines are 650. And the center fuel tank has the hoses going out, so the fuel in the center tank is feeding the 6 symmetry tanks. Okay, everything's great. I'm coming in for a nice, good landing on Eve. I have loaded this thing up with parachutes because Eve has such a thick atmosphere that you will, if you try and do it on engines alone, depending on how you've built your lander, you're probably going to burn all your fuel because it is so thick.
Yeah, you're hoping the parachutes will
Right.
take up a lot of the work.
Each, you remember I told you I have 6 symmetry? Mm-hmm. Each tank and engine has 2 parachutes on it. It has one on top, and they're the parachutes that have the drogues. They're the big parachutes, the ones that have the drogues, and then they're the side-mounted parachutes. So when I'm coming in and I'm coming in for a landing, I'm literally popping off 13 parachutes because there's one in the center as well. Okay, and on that alone, it slows me down to about 9 meters a second.
Wow,
which is still too fast to land.
Yeah.
If I gun the engine and run it at about 50%, that will slow me down to about 3 meters per second, which is perfect for landing.
Okay.
Except, here's the problem. The goofball that designed the ship, he who shall be nameless, and his name is not even remotely Biff, designed it to where the landing struts, the engine bell, the hitchhiker's container, and the senior docking port, which is on the bottom of the hitchhiker's container, are all roughly equal, flat with each other, so that when the ship touches down, the engines break off, the docking port breaks off, the hitchhiker container breaks off, and just to add insult to injury, it causes such a jolt that the capsule on top of the center fuel tank breaks off.
Wait, so what about the landing legs?
That's what I'm saying. They're all, oh no, they're fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the
whenever they compress.
The feet on the landing legs are about equal. If you took a ruler or if you took a flat surface and set the lander on it.
Yeah, that's the hard part about those kind of thrusters is that they're not.
Right.
Yeah,
they're not
legs.
small.
Yeah.
If you took a flat surface and set the lander on it, the bottom of the engine bell and the bottom of the hitchhiker container would all be about the same as the little feet on the landing legs. And so coming down, another thing I discovered, by the way, because what I figured after doing that 2 or 3 times, and because once the engines are damaged and detached, there's no way to fire them again. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I decided, okay, I'm going to try and get this down to where I'm literally coming in at like 0.1 meters per second. Okay. I've got 13 parachutes. I can certainly burn the engines enough to bring myself down to that. Well, that's when I discovered that as far as Kerbal is concerned, when you're coming down on parachutes, if you get under 1 meter per second, the game says, you don't need parachutes anymore, and they disappear.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. And at which point, of course, I immediately hit full throttle and I go straight up, and then I hit the X, and then I come screaming down and explode. So, my latest attempt to conquer Eve is not going so well.
Yeah.
Right now,
It's been a tough one on you.
Well, I think with anybody,
that's true.
You have heard many people refer to Eve as the graveyard of ships. It is a well-deserved reputation.
Yeah.
Where I stand right now, because after I think I tried about 10 or 20 times to set down, because I knew that if I could just, there's just this perfect storm of circumstances. If I can just hit it once, I can set the thing down. Okay?
Yeah.
And I figure every time I reload and try it again, I'm rolling the dice, and one of these times
will be the time that it all works out.
And it's yet to happen. And I think what I'm going to end up doing, because I'm at this point, I think what I'm going to do the next time I reload the game is, instead of firing the parachutes and trying to come in, I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to full throttle and get back up and out of the atmosphere and back into orbit and go back home.
Yeah.
And redesign my heavy-duty Mamma Jamma lander. But that's where I am right now. Eve is once again kicking me in the backside.
Yeah.
Which it seems to do to everybody.
It's rough.
I did the last crash I did before I finally said, you know what, I give up, I'm going to bed. This was the most unusual crash I've ever seen in my life. I hit the ground, huge explosion, right? The engines, now going at full throttle, shoot off in 6 different directions, leaving little contrails behind them.
That's fun.
Except, well, I take it back. I said 6 different directions, 5 different directions. And the reason I say 5 is because one of the engines, for some reason, flipped upside down and is now burning full power straight down. So it is upside down. It's like a Roman candle.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you've got is you've got like one engine burning, throwing all this, flame and smoke and everything up into the air in a straight line. And then 5 engines are all heading off in 5 different directions and leaving these contrails. It looks like, you remember the old Warner Brothers cartoons where, like somebody would run and you'd see them like going over the horizon and over the horizon and over the horizon, hills. And you could see like this
Like
dust cloud that just keeps getting smaller and smaller. That's what it looked like. It's a crash site, and then you've got like 5 road runners running away from it.
Yeah.
So that's where I am progress-wise. I have successfully been to the Canyon on the Mun, and I have unsuccessfully, successfully I have been to Eve. Unsuccessfully, I have not landed on Eve.
Yeah.
Well,
no, you've landed on Eve. Yeah.
I've landed on Eve. I have not successfully landed on Eve. I have not landed on Eve where you could actually get out and walk around or get back from it. Mm-hmm. If I can recover the lander, I will get back up and I will rendezvous and dock, and I will return to Kerbin, and I will redesign the Mamma Jamma lander so that the bottom part of it isn't slamming into the ground at the same time the little footsies are.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my big progress for the week. So, did you have anything to add?
No, I mean, whenever I move on to my, whenever I have the time again, I'm going to be probably starting career mode over again, just to get my funds back and reevaluating stuff. But you'll hear some people's opinions on that coming up in
just a minute. You know what, though? I will say this. I like the idea of the hypothetical progress report.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the stuff that you can accomplish in the hypothetical progress report?
I think I got a lot done.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself.
Tell me how that warp drive goes, because I want to hear about other galaxies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're done with progress report?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on.
And now your letters and the latest news in the mission briefing.
All right, let's go ahead and get to our first letter. This comes to us from Skyzar, and Nos is going to be the one who reads it.
Okay, first off, give me the code.
Give me the code!
When I heard that 0.90 was about to come out, my Kerbals had 3 million funds in the bank, so I decided to blow that lot on a mental Duna mission.
A mental Duna?
Maybe that's hypothetical.
It's astral projection.
Yeah. This is the first of several daft rocket launches. I didn't quite get it finished before .90 came out, though, and I start a new game with each update. Thanks for the great podcast. Skyzar.
You know what's nice about mental Duna missions or astral projection?
Uh-huh.
It's even better than hypothetical progress.
Yeah.
Imagine the stuff you can do. Okay, next letter.
This one's Whisker Fox. Give me the code. I found a good screen cap for you. I hadn't realized how unlucky Urzon has been. He crashed on the Mun and he got stranded in orbit around Lathe for 2 years. And now he's been in a 2 Kerbal lander with Bill for about 60 years.
If you've seen Interstellar, I suspect that's all relativity right there. So
Yeah.
they've probably been on the ground for about an hour, but it was 60 years elsewhere.
Been a few minutes.
If you subscribe to our Twitter feed, the screenshot that he sent in has been tweeted out, and you can go and you can look at it. When I sent out this picture, I said, give me the code and some duct tape.
Yeah.
Because what it is imagine this. It is a lander where the landing portion, the 2-seater lander part, is just sitting on the ground upright. And then sitting right next to it is the lander part, the bottom half of the lander, perfectly upside down.
Yeah, the return stage.
It's hilarious.
Okay, we have a letter from DK.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And he says, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Here's a pretty awesome KSP sketch video.
This is when we started the episode. You heard, I said set thruster to 73% ish. And then Nos said,
Yeah, thrusters at maximum.
Thrusters at maximum.
That was a quote, and then we played an excerpt from the video.
Yeah, it is. We're going to post a link to this. It is a comedy troupe online, and it's White Lightning HQ. And they do these short little, about 3 or 4 minute little videos that are funny about, like they have one for Civilization 5.
Yeah.
And they have one for Kerbal. And they've got, I haven't had a chance to watch them all, but like they had one for Minecraft. Honestly, these have got me just howling out loud.
Yeah, no, the Kerbal one was really good.
Funny.
Yeah, the Kerbal one was really good.
The what really stands out to me about these videos is their sense of timing is spot on.
Yeah.
These guys are hilarious, and they're a lot of times, especially when you have like amateur comedians, the timing is off. A lot of times, they'll say something funny and you're going ha 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 ha, and there's this giant gap.
Yeah.
Before the next thing comes. These guys, their timing is right on the money. The Kerbal video that we're going to post a link to, the guy that is playing the mission controller, and he's wearing a white lab coat and he's got glasses. Do you know who he reminds me of?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that 70s show when it was on?
No.
He reminds me of Topher Grace, because Topher Grace, his delivery, he would do these short bursts of speech.
Yeah.
That had they were these halting bursts of speech where he would say a lot very quickly, but then there were these pauses. And his timing is perfect. The guy that they've got playing Jeb, even though they didn't get out the green markers, the magic markers,
paint,
and paint him green, he actually kind of looks like Jeb.
I'm sure he's happy to hear that.
Yeah. And I mean, his timing's right on the money. They've got another guy that has like these long sideburns, and he leans in at one point and he's only got like 1 or 2 lines and he nails them.
Yeah.
This video is so funny. I am going to put a link. You've got to watch this and check out their other videos too. These guys are very good. You can tell that it's, it's 3, I think it's 3 guys. You can tell it's 3 guys having a good time. Yeah. And they're doing all this on their computer and it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's very funny, but thanks for, two thanks I guess we should do. Thanks number 1 to DK. Somebody had sent him the link and then he sent it to me and said, hey, you should check this out. And then of course I watched it and laughed my butt off. And then I emailed them and said, would you mind if we mentioned it in the podcast? And they said, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I want to thank DK for making us aware of this. And I want to thank them for putting it online, because it really is funny.
Okay, you're up next with Captain Carcer.
Okay, the first time I saw this, I did not read Carcer as Carcer.
I thought it was cancer?
Cancer.
Oh.
I mean, because you know how you just kind of almost don't look, it's like out of the corner of your eye you see things. It was like Captain Cancer.
Like the zodiac sign.
Yeah. It was like, okay, so Walter White sent us a letter?
Yeah.
Anyway, this one says, give me the code. Hey, Biff and Nos, I am a British novice at KSB, racking up only a few hundred hours in the game, but have yet to reach another planet. When I do, then I will consider myself to be a mid-level player. I have just caught up to your current podcast and am now fed up with waiting to hear more from the podcast weekly. So more episodes per week, please. You think you could quit your job, Nos?
Yeah. Actually, we'll do some,
we'll just do more highlights.
Yeah. No, we'll do hypothetical podcasts.
Hypothetical podcast. There you go.
Yeah. Oh man, the next episode is going to be real great.
Yeah. What would a hypothetical podcast? Would it be just we upload 2 hours of silence?
Yeah. And you're right.
And then people sit there and imagine what they're hearing.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know what? Hypothetically, Biff just said something really funny. And hypothetically, Nos is a very handsome man.
Oh yeah.
Oh baby.
Get all those hypothetical ladies.
Come on, bring your green self over here and talk to Daddy Nos.
Back to
Daddy Nos needs
back to Captain Carcer. Back to Captain Carcer.
Okay, back to Captain Carcer. The 0.90 update is fantastic, but sometimes the contracts can be a little silly. I am sure that by the time I have completed the tech tree, my local space will be cluttered with orbital stations and satellites, all of them with all the seats necessary, but only a computer running them. I don't see the need to send up Kerbals. I can't wait to see what is in the next update, rumored to arrive later this month. Is there one rumored to arrive later this month? I was unaware of this.
I wonder.
Maybe we should hypothetically have Captain Carcer.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he signs off. You ready? May you always have air in your tank, Captain Carcer.
I need fuel.
You need
fuel in my tank.
No, you need snacks.
Even fuel in the air tank. I need all the fuel.
Give me the snacks.
Okay, this one comes from Andy and Deb. Hi, Biff and Nos. Firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you so much for all of your podcasts to date. I've listened to all of them during my commute here in the UK, and due to recent roadworks, can squeeze in Kerbalcast and Space Rocket History, among a number of others. It always makes my morning when I start the car at the same time as starting your intro, 10, 9, and starts the day with a laugh. I really appreciate all the work you're putting in. Keep it up, and the longer the podcast, the better they are from my point of view.
I want to reemphasize what he just said. If you have not heard the Space Rocket History podcast, fascinating. Fascinating. You know, occasionally we'll do little segments, like Apollo 8, the anniversary was last month.
Yeah.
Imagine that on a weekly basis.
Yeah. So
this guy's, if you haven't heard...
You just can't get enough.
Just can't get enough. Space Rocket History, if you have not heard the podcast yet, go and get these podcasts. They are excellent. I'm sorry I interrupted. Please continue.
Now the real reason for sending this email. My girlfriend Deb is a careers advisor for school kids and has to keep up to date with training and job opportunities. She has just arranged a meeting with the UK Space Agency and is going in with more than just a rudimentary understanding of orbital mechanics. She says she's going to try to drop a Homer to your mobile into the conversation and see if that doesn't get a response. Ask directly about KSP and its influence on their work. And regardless of whether she comes out with any souvenirs or not, it opens another door for the nerdy kids we once were and highlights once again the unique influence this great game has on our own knowledge and the people around us that share our lives.
He says nerdy kids that we once were. How about nerdy kids that I still am?
Yeah. Finally, Nos, I can't give any great advice for sorting out your KSP career frustrations other than to quote, "Only those who attempt the absurd can achieve the impossible," by Einstein. And to say that there's nothing more satisfying than launching from a glorified farm to land a rookie engineer on the Mun without conics. Best of wishes for 2015, and may you always have a star to steer by. Andy and Deb. P.S. Give me the code.
Give me the code. That's a good quote, the one from Einstein. Do you know the other one I like? I'm paraphrasing, but Teddy Roosevelt basically said, there are those that never achieve anything. They stand on the sidelines and make fun of people that do achieve. Mm-hmm. And he would rather be the one who achieves than the one who, he was basically saying, beware of the critics, because there are a lot of people out there that just love to tear you down. Let's continue. Okay, continuing on. We have a letter now from John M. And it says, "Hey, fathers Biff Bucks and Nos Bucks. Do you remember the last episodes we were talking about if we got a lot of money and bought squad and told them what to do? Yeah. I would be Biff Bucks and you would be Nos Bucks. Daddy Nos Bucks.
I could use some Nos Bucks.
I could definitely use some Nos Bucks. I'd like to chime in with my thoughts on 0.90. My opinion has also evolved, but I would say it's improved over my playtime as I've gained more traction with my program. The first campaign I tried on 0.90, I implemented the same difficulty options I'd been using in career mode prior to the update, unchecking all the radial button options such as respawning Kerbals and, most importantly, disabling save revert functionality. I did not realize the challenges that would be presented by needing to upgrade buildings, however. And after some poor planning, I quickly found myself out of funds. I was unable to build big enough ships to accomplish high-paying contracts since the dirt under my launch pad couldn't support a big ship. Yeah, you were talking about that. Mm-hmm. The not only the launch pad, but the runway.
Yeah.
And all my other contracts paid too little to justify the cost of accomplishing them. Game over. Wah, wah, sad noise plays. I should go find a... Wah, wah, wah. So I restarted, determined to not repeat my mistakes. Upgrading the launch pad is a must. And then, as soon as possible, upgrading the VAB. I think I ended up upgrading the tracking station earlier than expected, since I accepted a Kerbal rescue mission before realizing that I couldn't track the lonely spaceman, and I did not have the Kerbals to try and...
There's an extra L there.
I know. I was...
Extra L in Kerbal there.
was consider for an instant there. That's why there was a pause, because I was considering, should I go back and make clear what he actually wrote, or should I just keep going? But anyway, think of Kerbals with an extra L, and you have an idea of what he's saying. And yes, we're still family friendly. I have since made it to the Mun a few times, and am close to upgrading my research facilities. I think I've secured a strong enough foothold now that running out of money is no longer a concern, and so I'm having fun building up my stations. One big tip I have: set up minimalist space stations and a small Mun base as soon as you can. I have 2 scientist Kerbals orbiting the Mun, and Kerbin, a command pod, solar panels, and antenna is all. And last night put a Kerbal on the Mun to hang out for a while. These are all super handy since they are reoccurring contracts that pay well for science from orbit, science from the surface, and for planting flags. With these semi-permanent stations established, I should be able to farm them for eternity. I'll set up further ones as I expand my reach to Minmus, Duna, etc. Now, if I need to plant a flag and collect 50,000, I don't have to first send a ship to the Mun. They're already there. That's actually a good idea. So I, for one, now enjoy the updated Kerbal with 1L. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the next episode of the podcast, Nos is enjoying it more too. You know, hypothetically, I would agree.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with the idea for allowing us to change the difficulty on part testing contracts. That's a Nos idea. I think it's a great one.
Yeah.
He didn't write. That's me. I'm making editorial comments as I go. They are generally no good right now, talking about part testing. Part testing contracts should really not be random, but should be used as another version of a tutorial to encourage players to learn how and when to use new parts. Currently, they are no fun. Skill trees for the Kerbals would be great too, so that you could improve your Kerbals in different ways. And his sign-off is spacebar money, John M. You've heard me slag on part testing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think since 0.24?
Yeah, since part testing came to
Something
be.
like that. I did have a thought. This is, and don't get me wrong, this is not me saying that I still like part testing. And if this is the first time you've ever heard Kerbalcast, I don't play career mode. I like to play either sandbox or science. To me, the whole game is space exploration and space flight. I don't do career mode. So me complaining about part testing is almost kind of redundant. Mm-hmm. But I will say a thought occurred to me this past week. Part testing is the closest thing the game, or one of the closest things that the game has to what test pilots actually do.
Yeah.
In real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why they're in there, and I understand the thought behind them. I'm still not interested, but it did occur to me that if you are really kind of if you really want to get down to the realism, where you're worrying about budgets and you're worrying about putting up different craft in orbit or in the atmosphere or whatever, in real life, they don't design an airplane and then a pilot gets in it and takes off and it flies forever. They design it and then they go get a test pilot, and the test pilot takes it up and rings it out. Mm-hmm. That's what part testing is. Now, do you want to do that in a game? That's up to you.
Yeah.
But at least I've kind of made a little progress in terms of understanding why they're in there. Mm-hmm. How was that? Did you like that journey?
Yeah, that's a great little journey.
Yeah. I started here. I went in a complete circle, and I came right back. Next letter is you.
Okay, that is from Dan H. Hi, guys. I'd like to give you some tips for things as far as building upgrades and contracts that have worked well for me. So as far as building upgrades, as far as they go, here's the starting order that I did. First is the launch pad. This is because you really need that upgrade to get to orbit. Second, I upgrade mission control, mostly just because it's cheaper than the tracking station, and you need both the tracking station upgrades and mission control upgrades to get maneuver nodes. Third, as I said above in the tracking station, then the next one is the VAB, as that should get you enough parts available to get you to the Mun if you are part budget weight conscious. My rule of thumb as far as upgrading a building goes is that I don't buy the upgrade unless I have twice the amount of money the upgrade requires. Another thing to look at doing early is a 5 or even 10% strategy converting money to science. This will net you a surprisingly large amount of science quickly.
That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Don't upgrade unless you have twice the amount of money.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
that flies in the face of the way I typically do it, which is if I'm looking to upgrade, I typically upgrade as soon as I've got the money. Mm-hmm. It's like if it takes 10,000
with
Kerbal bucks.
With this, you have to make sure you have enough of a padded buffer that you can continue doing contracts.
You need to have 20,000 Kerbal bucks.
As far as contracts go, I ignore pretty much every single part testing contract that pops up. Instead, early on, I shoot for all the milestone contracts, the altitude record, space around Kerbin, orbit, and whatnot. Once those are done, you should start getting science from space around Kerbin contracts. These are really easy. Fast track the first tier of solar panels, a thermometer, and a probe core. Put that thing in orbit and easy money anytime that contract pops up. If you're feeling cruel or Jeb is getting on your nerves, you can always use the solar panel and put a Kerbal up there and leave him there to transmit crew reports to fulfill the contracts as well.
Now, how could Jeb ever possibly get on your nerves?
Yeah. If you're really hurting for cash, you can just cancel contracts until another science from space around Kerbin pops up, though that's cheesing a bit.
Question. Does he mean, when he says cancel, does he mean just not, okay, decline?
Yeah.
Because my understanding is that if you have a contract and then cancel it.
Yeah, they'll take their money back. But if it's just a contract in the available ones,
okay,
you can cancel them and different ones will pop up.
Okay.
So you can, really, if you hate part testing, you can just keep clicking on the part test ones and decline them.
Right.
And just keep declining them until contracts you want come up.
Okay.
So you pretty much play whack-a-mole with them.
Well, when he was talking about canceling, I was thinking, isn't there a huge, penalty for doing that? But not if you just don't accept.
Yeah, if you're looking to borrow a bunch of money, then spend it and then cancel all the contracts. I mean, that is a way to manipulate the system. But then again, you probably use that money to make money, so it doesn't really work out.
You say manipulate the system. This is the second or third letter we've gotten here pretty quickly that has essentially talked about manipulating the system, which is, I'm going to put something on the Mun, or I'm going to put something in orbit, loaded up with all these part tests, or whatever it is. I'm going to go every time a contract comes up that would be fulfilled by that. I'm going to accept it, and then I'm already there. Mm-hmm. So people are already starting to figure out how to kind of manipulate the rules,
which I don't think is that great. I mean, I think it's like what their workarounds for it have been good as players, but as a new player or anyone who's doing any of that stuff, it's like, oh, you have to manipulate the system in order to get the system to work.
Right.
It's like, well, unless I'm playing a game where I'm like the Kerbal mob, trying to do that.
Guido the Kerbal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I guess, I get your point as far as beginners go. I think that for more experienced players who want to blaze through but avoid things like, who want to make the part testing as painless as possible.
Yeah.
I can see why they do that. They put these, Swiss Army knives in orbit. Mm-hmm. And every time one of those contracts come up, they just go, okay, fine, switch to that, do whatever it is, and then go back. Mm-hmm. So I can see that. So
okay, back to Dan. Once satellite contracts will start popping up and you have the second tier probe and the solar panels, these are easy money. My design costs around $11,000 to put into orbit, and contracts pay off around $80K or more. And honestly, the design I use probably has way too much leftover Delta V, as I've used it to put satellites in orbit on the Mun and Minmus as well. Overall, though, I think the way career mode plays out is actually very good for the game. As Biff said about science mode making you build up more intelligent rockets over just sandbox mode, career mode makes you take that even a step further. As being limited in budget and other resources like part count and weight, it makes you build the most efficient rockets with as few parts as possible to accomplish what you need to get done in the early stages. This seems to generally lead to better rocket building practices later in the game. Man, that was a big wall of text. Feel free to paraphrase, and I didn't. Thanks again for the great podcast. Fly safe, Dan H.
We've talked about that there are, there's different types of Kerbalers. I'm science and sandbox. That's what I want to play.
Yeah.
The game to me, I've said this before, the game to me is space exploration and space flight. But there are a lot of people out there that like career. And I will say to Squad, I give you guys a definite tip of the hat. A thought occurred to me right about the time I was rationalizing part testing. Another thought occurred to me as well. I had talked before about how games essentially impose a play style on you. Mm-hmm. Kerbal, in terms of being a sandbox game, is I mean, it's the only game I can think of that does it exactly right. And okay, what am I talking about? Think of something like Minecraft. Minecraft, if you read an article about Minecraft, like if you open the Sunday newspaper supplement and there's an article in there about Minecraft, inevitably they will describe it as an open world sandbox game, right?
Yeah.
Well, compared to Kerbal, it's really not. You're looking at me funny.
I'm just waiting.
You're waiting.
I'm seeing what comes of this.
You're waiting for the other shoe to hit the floor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the other shoe is the same height as the engine bell and the so it's gonna blow up when it hits.
Explode.
Okay, think about it like this. In Kerbal, you can play the game with essentially every difficulty setting engaged. You have to mess with funding. You have to mess with contracts. You have to mess with upgrading. You have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you have to launch and you have to fly and you have to land and you have to do. So basically, you can make Kerbal as difficult as you want it. Okay?
Yeah.
You have the option of getting rid of funding and upgrading and all of that stuff and focus strictly on flying and exploring and space and upgrading the tech tree. Or you can throw all that out and focus strictly on flying and space exploration. Okay? And it truly is an open world game. When you launch a ship, let's just say, I'm just hypothetically, let's just say I'm going to build a bare bones ship that is designed to do nothing more than to get into Kerbin orbit, and then land.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can build a very small ship and get it up into Kerbin orbit, and I can spend all day if I want staring at that thing as it goes around and around Kerbin, and it will not come down until I bring it down, assuming I'm above a certain altitude, right?
Yeah.
That's open world. Nothing's trying to kill you, okay? Mm-hmm. You have some basic limits that are set on you. The game says orbital mechanics are in effect. Gravity is in effect. Atmosphere is in effect. Okay? All the variables of the game world are in effect. Beyond that, do what you want. Okay? What you really, really want.
Yeah.
I said a hut. Never mind. I never thought I would quote the Spice Girls in my life.
Well, you didn't have to.
I didn't have to. Do you know which Spice Girl I would be? I'd be Tubby Spice.
Oh.
But anyway, what I'm saying is that you can, taking into account the variables within the game itself, the environment of the game,
Yeah.
you can do anything you want, okay? And nobody's trying to kill you. I have said in the past, for example, Call of Duty. At no point in Call of Duty can you ever decide, you know what, I'm tired of shooting at things, I'm going to wander around and look for things, or I'm going to admire the scenery or whatever, because people are always trying to kill you. Minecraft, which is commonly described as an open world sandbox game, gives you only two options. You can either A, play the game where you have to do resource gathering, okay? And in that game, you have things trying to kill you.
Yeah.
You can't just explore and collect resources and build, because you have to worry about creepers and you have to worry about zombies and you have to worry about all the various things. So it's open world to a point. It's open world except for the part where things in that world are trying to kill you. You can't just wander around Minecraft. Unless you decide to go with sandbox mode. Sandbox mode does not allow you to do resource gathering. Sandbox mode basically goes, you can do anything you want, you can build anything you want, but you cannot gather resources. You have no limitations placed on you whatsoever. Okay? To me, the ideal Minecraft game would be if I could set it to where I could resource gather. Basically, if I could set it to where all the hostiles were gone.
Yeah.
That, to me, would be the perfect Minecraft open world game. Okay? Kerbal, on the other hand, allows you to play the game and nobody's trying to kill you.
Yeah. I feel we're going to get a letter from a Minecraft player. But
other than your own stupidity is about the only thing that's wanting to kill you.
Now, Minecraft did a creative mode to where it was all the resource gathering and survival.
No.
But
not unless it's something.
You've probably played more recent than I have. So.
Well, I mean, the two modes that I've played is you either do the full-blown game, which has the zombies and the creepers and all the other
survival
stuff, and resource gathering, which to me, without the resource gathering, Minecraft is less satisfying. Mm-hmm. I mean, part of what makes building a giant structure fun is the fact that every brick that you put in place is one that you've gone out and collected.
Yeah.
When you're in creative mode, you have every resource available to you in infinite quantities. Now, Kerbal, on the other hand, Kerbal allows you to keep throwing things out. It keeps going. You can play the game like this with everything, with every difficulty setting in place, or you can start tossing out difficulties and you can get it down to where it's the same game.
Very modular.
Except you're only playing the base game itself, which is getting off the ground and getting into space and exploring and whatever. And that's the game I like.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that Kerbal is so customizable. Mm-hmm. Because, as I've said before, we can all play the game how we want.
Yeah, not just the way the game wants us
The
to.
game's not enforcing a play style on us. So anyway, that whole long rant was a big thank you to Squad. You guys do open world better than Minecraft. How's that?
You're up next with Death Saber.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, you mean so after all that talking, I have more talking?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Great. People are hitting that 15-second fast forward button again.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Okay, this is from Death Saber, and it says, "Hey guys, this one is for Nos. You were talking about not finding your spent stages even though you have parachutes on them. That's because anything low in the atmosphere that moves more than 2.5 kilometers from your rocket gets deleted for performance reasons. Only stuff within 2.5K gets its physics modeled. Therefore, outside of that range, KSP can't calculate drag, so it deletes the parts."
That's real frustrating.
Yeah. You know, that actually, that explains something. Because I've wondered, have you ever, when you're coming down into the atmosphere and you separate your capsule from the rest of the ship, have you ever noticed that the rest of the ship doesn't do flame effects?
Yeah, yeah.
But you do? You would think that you'd be able to see the other thing with flame effects.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Okay. Well, that explains it. Okay. And I'm going to kick it over to Nos now.
Okay, this one comes from Christian. Hey guys, I wanted to chime in on the 0.90 discussion. Being a game designer myself, I have some conflicting feelings on the new upgrade. I certainly share Nos's experience. Well, thank you. I feel validated. My first attempt at a 0.90 career failed horribly. I upgraded the wrong buildings, researched the wrong tech, took the wrong contracts, and ended up so poor I wasn't able to launch any noteworthy rockets anymore. However, since then I had another try and learned how to avoid that fate. The reconnaissance missions are great moneymakers early on. It pays off to concentrate on aerospace technology early on so you can build a simple airplane. Airplanes are completely reusable if you don't crash. Like Biff, I never messed with airplanes before. There was just no reason to build them so far. The new version opened this whole new part of the game for me. When doing the early rockets, it pays off to avoid overshooting the height record contracts. If you overshoot one of them by a large margin, they will stop appearing. It is a good exercise in developing a feel for the power of your rocket. It was the first time I messed around with thrust limiters and the fuel reserves on the solid rocket boosters. Generally, it pays off to make as much of the spacecraft recoverable as possible. It is a whole new challenge in the design of your rockets. I used to return only with a capsule back to Kerbin. Now I always try to recover at least the engine of that final stage. I build Kerbin landers with landing legs, and I attempt splashdowns. By the way, putting parachutes on stages usually won't cut it, but there is a mod for that.
Do you, because I know you play career, do you do that? Do you have it selected where the jettisoned parts parachute down?
I mean, I put parachutes on them to activate whenever they would separate.
Because isn't that an option you can do in the?
I don't know.
Can't you set it where the parts are recoverable? Well, I'm you know what I'm saying, parachutes. I think isn't it like locating devices so that you can find them?
I don't know. I mean, I've had debris and I've been able to locate it from the tracking station.
Okay.
But...
Okay. I may be wrong. I remember. I seem to be remembering that there's an option you can select. You know the strategies.
Yeah.
I think there's one that you can select where it basically low jacks all your pieces.
Oh. Okay.
Anyway, I may be wrong.
I don't think part testing is meant to be something you completely commit to. I realize you can get away without dedicating part testing missions. Instead, you can just keep a lookout for convenient part testing contracts, either ones you can do while doing on a different mission, or ones that give you early access to parts you need to do different missions. Once you can do the Kerbal rescue missions and the satellite missions, you'll have access to pretty reliable sources of money. I really like the fact that the new career mode encourages players to explore the finer nuances of the game, but I'm concerned that this mode may become quite challenging. The difficulty curve is pretty much upside down, with the game becoming easier and easier as you progress. It is ironic that Nos, having less experience of the two of you, went with career. This made me think about how to best introduce new players to the game. At this point, I think science mode is the best way to introduce them early on, but it's not an obvious one. Perhaps we need a separate training mode that is specifically designed to teach players the basics of the game. How would you guys design such a mode? I mean, really, it would be parts testing with a reason. Like anytime you'd have a new part, it would give you a what and a why.
Can I call you Daddy Nosbucks again?
Yeah. So I mean that would be the main thing. Is
Right.
like anytime you did like a part testing contract, it would have you use the part typically how you would actually use the part.
We've talked about that many times in the past. That's one of the gripes I have about part testing is that you're not testing the part in many cases the way you would use it. The ones that I point at specifically are, fire off a parachute when you're, above 50 kilometers in the atmosphere. And it's like, really? I would never do that.
Yeah. And some music recommendations. Jean-Michel Jarre, Oxygen, and Thomas Bergerson, son, the guy who made the music to one of the Interstellar trailers. I'm pretty sure you'll know which one.
You can find him. I went to, do you ever use Groove Shark?
Once or twice, yeah.
I went to Groove Shark and I called up the Tom Bergerson. This music makes you like want to go out and run like 2 or 3 marathons in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you want to go fight wild animals, and it makes you want to develop superpowers and fly. I mean, it's just, it's that kind of music. It's like, how like Michael Bay movies, how they always have that fist pumping kind of music. Dun, 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 dun. That's what this sounds like.
Oh, okay.
I was listening to this thinking, man, somebody find me an irradiated spider so I can go fight crime. I was like, yeah.
Sorry for the long mail. Keep doing the great work. Christian from Cologne. P.S. Can you talk about Apollo 15? It's my favorite Apollo mission with the most spectacular landing site.
And you know what I wrote back? I loved being able to say this.
Yeah.
What did I write back?
Check out episode 13 for our Apollo 15 segment. It's also in episode 30, the best of Kerbalcast.
Yes. We actually covered one.
Yeah.
I will do a little bit of a promo here. Apollo 14, the anniversary of that is coming up. Okay. And we are probably going to do a segment on that. Apollo 14 features one of my favorite astronauts. I will say probably my favorite astronaut is Jim Lovell, Homer to your mobile.
Yeah, you met him.
I met him.
Yeah, you saw his baseball.
And for a week, I ran around yelling Homer to your mobile. But Apollo 14, the anniversary is coming up, and that was the triumphant return of Alan Shepard, who at that point had not flown since the very first Mercury mission. He was the first American suborbital, and then he came back for Apollo 14. So yeah, we'll probably talk about Apollo 14 next time. But yeah, if you're interested, anyone who's interested in Apollo 15, episode 13 was right on the anniversary, and then of course we did the episode 30 best of Kerbalcast. So if you want to hear what we said about that, that's where you'll be able to find it. Next letter comes to us from our friend North Star, and he says, "Dear Biff and Nos, another excellent podcast as always. I hope you enjoyed your time with your families and girlfriends. By the way, I'm jealous. This rocket scientist has had a harder time even scoring a date than putting a rocket on the moon."
Well, see, the thing is, this is the big secret. Because in the world of dating, just like in the world of being a Kerbal, it's all about courage and stupidity.
Yeah. Well, you know what I was going to say, actually, is unlike rocket science, which is like logical and makes sense, dating is like, there are times you can do everything exactly right and still blow it. And then there are times when you can do everything exactly wrong and it works out.
Yeah, just like launching rockets.
My girlfriend, honestly, she has got to be the most understanding person on the planet. Our first date, I was a nervous wreck.
Uh-huh.
Okay, she spent the entire evening looking at me thinking, if he doesn't calm down, I'm not going to be able to be around him much longer. I was a nervous wreck. And she was just thinking, oh, my God. You know, like, I mean, honestly, if she had one of those tranquilizer guns, if she could have tranked me and tagged me and released me into the wild, she probably would have.
Uh-huh.
But bless her heart, we did the date, and she said, he was nervous. Let's try it again.
Yeah.
And our second date is when we really clicked, but we would have never had a second date if she hadn't have been so understanding about the fact that he's nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give him some free reign here.
See, I don't reveal all the nerdy stuff I'm into until, like, they're pretty much roped in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, yeah. Cool. I go to bars, drink, do cool stuff. And they're like, come over to my place, like, what's all this stuff? And I was like,
yeah. Board games? What are these things?
It's like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
But...
Hey, how come there's dolls on the wall? They're action figures, not dolls.
We'll do that in our, our next episode. We'll do an after the credits dating advice.
Yeah.
From the Kerbalcast crew.
Dating advice from us.
Yeah.
Also known as do everything opposite of what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she did. Not only was she nice enough, she put up with the nervous wreck on the first date. But you know what else happened? When the first time we went out to dinner, I had such bad experience in the past, with some things that, I was bound and determined that this was going to be a completely honest relationship.
Yeah.
So here we are. It's the first time. This wasn't the first date. First date, we actually went out to like a show, like a performance kind of show, like a stage show. The next date, we actually went out to eat. Okay. We went to a restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And we sit down and I mean, and this will tell you how smooth Biff is with the ladies, okay? We sit down and Biff says, okay, these are all the things about me that you need to know. These are all the deal breakers.
You got to be up front. You got to tell them how it is.
Got to be up front. And I went through them, I play video games. I'm this, I rarely bathe. I have bad table manners.
I own one shirt.
I own one shirt.
I want two more.
And even less underwear. And I mean, I just, okay, here's all the deal breakers. Boom, 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 boom. And she's sitting there thinking, oh, dear God.
Yeah.
But she's still here. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you're trying to build up points because February's next month, and our Valentine's Day podcast has to be real big.
But you know what's wrong with what you just said? You're assuming she listens.
Yeah,
you're assuming she listens. I mean, seriously, and that's the thing is, I'm really into video games and she's not, and that's just kind of one of those. She loves the fact that we can be together and I can go off and play games and she can sit and read or watch TV or whatever. We're together, but we're not.
Yeah. Okay, before we go back to the letter, this is the final piece of dating advice. They don't have to be into what you're into. Yes. But they should at least tolerate what you're into.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's all you can ask.
Well, I will tell you, and this is a long time ago, but I always thought to myself, the greatest kind of girlfriend to have is someone who is basically a copy of you, just, with like sexier bits. Okay. Which in my case,
I don't want to know
that
you've been wanting to date me with sexier bits all this time. I don't want to know.
Wow. Now I'm scooting further away from you after that admission. No, seriously, I used to think and this is back like in my teen years, but I used to think the greatest girlfriend to have would be somebody who is 100% like you. They have the exact same taste. They like the same music, the same movies, the same books, same everything. I used to think that was really important. Do you know what I discovered? Why I discovered that's wrong?
Because I don't want to date myself.
I'm
awful.
Hey, I have a lot of experience of dating myself. But anyway, I had a girlfriend for a while who was, she was literally that. She was 100% just like me. We loved literally the same things. Drove me insane. Because it's like I'd sit down and I'd go, I'm going to listen to this song. This is like one of my favorite songs. And I'd start the song and she'd come running in and she'd go, That's my favorite song. Did I ever tell you about this song? This song was written by so-and-so. This song is so-and-so. The first time I ever heard that song was and it was like, and I'm sitting there going, I just want to hear the song.
Yeah.
Could you please shut up?
And go back to North Star's letter.
Yeah, and go back to North. Yeah. Good segue. Very good. Yeah, who says Nos isn't good with the ladies? We really should. We should do a dating segment.
Yeah, well, all right, Valentine's Day is coming up. That'll be our Kerbal dating on Kerbalcast.
Yes. Do you know what my dating recommendation?
No, we've had so many. Oh, yes.
No, my dating recommendation for this particular upcoming Valentine's Day, okay? Don't take your girlfriend to see 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a given.
Yeah. And if you do, don't sit there and go, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people on February the 15th that are going, gee, that wasn't nearly as sexy as I thought it was. Okay, so back to the North Star letter now that we've solved everybody's dating ills. Quote, I wanted to address several things brought up in the beginning portion of the podcast. Before I forget them, I'm not even close to done listening yet. First of all, Biff, I'm sorry to hear your expedition ship Discovery missed its Jewel encounter. It's for precisely situations like that I recommend the Kerbal Alarm Clock mod indispensable. DK did a segment, this is me talking again, DK did a Modder's Minute on Kerbal Alarm Clock, and I have meant to install it and have yet to do it because of my ongoing laziness. North Star says, have you ever played with that mod? If not, I highly recommend giving it a try, as the ability to set alarm clocks based on game events, such as rocket hitting a sphere of influence transition, that will notify you and can even pause the game is enormously useful. It prevents troubles like what you had, and in my opinion is one of the handful of mods that absolutely should be made part of the stock game, no question about it, as there is no valid reason for Squad to deny players this tool. Second, Nos, I feel your pain about the early career game.
Yep.
It was not all that long ago. In fact, I think you might even get a letter I sent about it, or get to a letter I sent about it later in this podcast, that I became quite irritated about it myself. Since I have come to realize that, like many parts of sandbox games, the best solution to a situation you don't enjoy is to change the rules that are ruining your fun. Also known as the Kobayashi Maru maneuver.
Yeah.
Kobayashi Maru.
Kobayashi Maru.
Thank you. For me, this meant giving myself a massive starting cash bonus, the maximum allowed under custom difficulty options, in fact, to purchase a few key facility upgrades right out of the gate, particularly the Level 2 runway. The starting runway is just laughable to imagine any jet-powered plane attempting to take off from in real life, as well as bonus science points to purchase the early plane flight nodes through jet engines so I can start out with planes before building rockets. Having the ability to build planes you can land back on the runway will tremendously increase your early game economy and ability to complete contracts. He's assuming that I can land on the runway. I can't. Have you ever? You haven't tried that at all, have you?
Yeah, I've tried landing a few times.
I can't ever get lined up.
Yeah.
By the time I get lined up, I am more than halfway over the run. I mean, I'm more halfway the length of the runway. Mm-hmm. At which point, and I've even tried, thank God I don't actually fly in real life, because the person in the back seat would probably kill me. Mm-hmm. When I finally do get lined up with the runway and I'm already more than halfway down the length of it, I have actually tried to go in a straight line as far as I can away from it. And then what I do is I do an upside down loop and start back.
Oh.
and then spin the plane right side up again. Redo?
Yeah, just doing a redo.
Well, not the way I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm literally flying upside down until I flip the plane.
Yeah, yeah.
And even then I find myself out of alignment with the runway. So I would probably lose a lot of money simply because I probably would blow up the plane trying to get it back. It's like, have you ever been on an aircraft carrier?
No.
The deck on those things look huge when you're standing on them.
Yeah.
Wait, when you're in a plane looking down,
not that big.
It looks about the size of a shoebox. And you're thinking to yourself, I got to land on that? Same thing with the runway. The runway looks huge until you're flying and trying to get to it and trying to get lined up. And then it's like, okay, you know, who drew a line here?
Yeah.
Who left a piece of yarn? Speaking of what? I've totally lost my thread. No, he's talking about space planes and landing. Yes, okay. Landing and getting your money back. Speaking of which, Nos, there is one key hint I would give you and other players that seems counterintuitive, but will greatly improve your early game experience. Do not strive to make it to orbit as quickly as possible at the beginning of the game. Are you looking at me perplexed?
No, I'm reading along.
You're not looking at me at all.
No, I wasn't looking at you at all.
Dadgummit. The reason for this, because the contracts operate on a milestone system where each achievement you accomplish results in more difficult contracts being assigned, making orbit quickly will only result in much more difficult contracts being assigned that you don't yet have the facilities or technology to accomplish. Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, like it scales.
Did you know that?
No, but I could see it because like all the contracts that showed up after I did those ones were, a little bit more stout.
Common sense solutions sometimes, when you hear them and you realize, of course, you kind of feel like, wow, what an idiot. I didn't see it. And it was so obvious. But yeah, it never even occurred to me until I just read that. Let's see. Facilities or technology to accomplish. Instead, strive for incremental progress, only increasing your mission's daring very gradually. That way, the contracts assigned will remain easily within your reach. Did you know the initial 5,000-meter altitude contract is only the first of a series of altitude record contracts, for instance? If your first launch doesn't clear 11 kilometers, the next target will be for that altitude. And the one after that for 22 kilometers, and then 33 kilometers, and so on. And you will be able to build up a substantial buffer of funds and science points before attempting more difficult contracts down the road. You will also get assigned more aerial survey contracts this way, which makes multiple contract survey plane flights much more lucrative. And you said that you like the surveillance, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought those were well done.
I thought you did. Okay, finally, Nos. You said you can't really successfully land your planes yet. That sounds familiar. I suggest you work to correct this shortcoming in your skills immediately. Not only is being able to land your planes back on the runway essential for early game progress, you will also find that the skills you acquire in learning how to make a plane landing are actually useful for better piloting your spacecraft. There's a reason NASA took experienced jet fighter pilots from many of their early astronauts in real life. I thought it was because they weren't that scared.
Yeah.
I think most people, it would be like, the checklist would be, like, okay, engines on, pants wet, things like that. I'd write more to you guys at the moment, but the space bar seems to be separating from my keyboard. Oops. Until next time, which may not be that long, fly bravely, and may you always have a star to guide by. And guess what? There's another letter, because I wrote him.
Oh.
And I said, hey, North Star, good to hear from you as always. You remember I told you I saw Interstellar for the fourth time, and then I had like a lightning bolt eureka moment?
Uh-huh.
This is me writing to North Star. Question. Have you seen Interstellar yet? I have a question, but I don't want to take a chance on spoilers. Biff. To which North Star responds, nope, not yet. One more kind of intellectual question for you and your listeners, though. All of NASA's troubles with his space program basically going bankrupt reminded me just how incredibly expensive and thus underfunded space exploration is in real life. The cost of space exploration clearly needs to come down if we are to seriously attempt things like a manned Mars mission. And I was wondering, where do you and your listeners think most of the progress will or should come from in the next 12 to 30 years? Do you think the key will be private enterprise, vertical single-site integration of rocket construction and reusable launch stages like SpaceX is doing? Or maybe something based on mass production of cheaply made rockets like the Aquarius concept? Do you think the main breakthroughs will be more technological, like the development of the world's first HTHL, also known as the Horizontal Takeoff, Horizontal Landing, full-fledged spaceplane, like the British are working on with Skylon and the Sabre engine? Or do you think the breakthrough will be something even more unusual, like the large-scale adoption of microwave beam power networks and microwave thermal rockets and space planes? Or the adoption of powerful mass drivers as a means to get the most of the way to orbit? Any thoughts, insights, or ideas would be helpful. How space exploration and utilization is going to be rethought and made cheaper is, in my honest opinion, one of the most important conversations that is not being had widely enough in the current day. Instead, most people seem implicitly split between one of two camps. Either that it is so expensive that we'll just give up on it in the long run, or that it is just a cost we're going to have to suck it up and bear at current rates because it is so important. Both groups seem to believe there is no approach we could seriously consider that would make it dramatically or drastically cheaper and circumvent the problem altogether. Again, North Star. I know we've had this conversation
Yeah,
before.
I think it was like episode 3 or 4.
Something like that.
The one we did over Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Which to answer his question, I do think that is probably where it's going to come from. But ultimately, and I don't remember if I said this way back when, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I think I've said many times I'm a great admirer of, gave a speech in which he talked about exploration, the way humans throughout our history have explored. And he basically said this. He said, nobody expends the effort or the capital or the work necessary to do these things unless certain conditions are met. We're going to make a lot of money, or we're going to die if we don't. And I can't remember everything he said, but he listed several things. And what he said was, the reason that we went and we're trying to find routes to China, sea routes to China, money.
Yeah.
The reason that we did the whole race to the moon, because we were terrified that the Soviet Union was going to get a foothold in space and kill us all. Just out of general, good foresighted management, altruistic means, very rarely do we do anything that does not involve making us richer or keeping us safer.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that in terms of our progress in space, I have a feeling that until one of those conditions is met, I think we're going to be having this conversation for a long time. I am not tempting the fates by saying this. That is not my intent. But you know what would jumpstart the space program in a hellacious hurry? Asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
If tomorrow they said, hey, we've been watching the skies and we discovered there's this giant mountain of rock out there that is unequivocally headed our way and is going to kill us all unless we do something about it. If that happens, people could not give the space programs enough money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people would be digging in the sofa cushions for spare change to send to the space program.
Yeah.
Because it's going to kill us, okay? Or, there's a giant mountain of gold floating out there, and hey, if we can just get up there and get it, we'll all be rich. That's what I think. I know it sounds cynical,
mm-hmm.
but to me, that's human nature. Human nature, and this is something they talked about in Interstellar. Human nature has a tendency to not think beyond what's in front of it. I guess it would be the operative. Yeah. We have a tendency not to think about what's beyond the horizon or what's not right in front of us. We don't think about it. And that's one of the things they talked about in Interstellar is, trying to get people to care about people that they don't even know or see.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the big root problem is trying to think a couple generations ahead.
Yeah.
I
am hoping, and this will tie into something in here in just a few minutes, but I am hoping that Elon Musk proves me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I would love it if he is, think about this as a giant chess game. I would love to find out that I am wrong and that he was 9 moves ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's true. The cynical part of me thinks that it's not. The cynical part of me thinks that unless people think they're going to get rich or they're going to die, I think we're always going to have this problem.
Yeah.
Do you have another letter?
Yep, I got one more. This one comes from Wesley. You asked for a recommended way to go through career mode. All I can offer is the way I did it, which was very simple, very easy, involved a very small number of part tests. If this is the YouTube link, I almost started reading it like HTTPS.
Go ahead, read the whole thing.
When you start, you can launch little ships and get little default contracts. You can get height records of 5, 11, 22, 33, and 56 kilometers, and also get launch, reach space, and reach orbit contracts. These together net you a ton of money on normal mode. I would not suggest to anybody to play on any difficulty level higher than normal, as it doesn't make the game any harder, just less fun to play. When you start, you can take 2 contracts, so you should take the launch and 5-kilometer contracts and complete them on your first launch. Don't go over 11 kilometers. If you do this, you'll miss out on the 11-kilometer contract. For your subsequent launches, take the next high contract and something else, preferably a splashdown parts test, or a test of a part significantly below your target height or at a pretty low speed.
That's what North Star was just talking about.
Uh-huh.
And we did not on purpose arrange the letters this way.
Yeah, so, I mean, it looks like
Wow.
you're supposed to try, but not try too hard whenever you launch.
Well, I think what they're saying is that if you go past a certain accomplishment, you lock out the earlier accomplishments.
I mean, if somebody who'd never played the game before was like, you probably need a lot of boosters to do that.
Yeah.
And they slapped on a ton, they could bypass all the stuff they could easily do.
I can say I'm guilty. Anytime I've ever tried to play career mode, one of the very first things I do is I put a capsule on a booster and send it up into space. Mm-hmm. You know, reading this, it's like, oh, well, I just basically blew past all kinds of gimme
I
contracts.
denied myself a lot of, available funds. These are the last part tests you'll ever need to do, though you should always look for new ones you can track on later flights. After you've gotten to the 33-kilometer height, you can you should have lots of cash, enough to upgrade mission control and the tracking station. So these are the 2 most important buildings because they give you the ability to see your orbits and make maneuver nodes. At some point, you'll want to upgrade the VAB and launch pad to fly bigger ships. You should have plenty of money to do this whenever you need it. Unlocking mission control will also allow 7 contracts at once. Take the 56-kilometer contract, the reach space contract, the get into orbit contract, and any other contracts you think you can do. I suggest, again, splashdown part tests, any suborbital part tests, and any in-orbit part tests. I know I said you don't need to do part tests, but these are the easy ones. Really, the part tests that kind of suck are the ones flying in atmosphere. With all these contracts and a successful orbit, you'll have enough cash to upgrade the astronaut complex so you can do EVAs in space.
Why do the atmosphere ones suck?
The part test in the atmosphere, you have to get the speed right, the altitude.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry. You're absolutely, because then we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much we hate having to hit those parameters.
This whole time, you'll be raking in science hand over fist, and you'll have filled out the entire accessible tech tree. Buy the next R&D upgrade and spend those science points. Unlock solar panels and probe cores, and do a few satellite missions. Those are great. Get at least 1 satellite around Kerbin, 1 around Mun, and 1 around Minmus with thermometers, and now anytime you see science and space around X missions, you can go to your satellite, take a temperature reading, transmit it back, and get free cash. Unlock the plane parts and do a survey or 2. They're fun and very profitable. If you can't afford to upgrade the runway, turn your plane around and take off backwards after a quick taxi off that bumpy ground into a nice flat stretch of lawn out to the west. Now the funds will be flowing in like water. Put a station in low Kerbal orbit, land on Mun and Minmus, and put stations up around those. In no time, you'll be fully upgrading all facilities and sending guys to distant planets.
And that's from?
That one was from Wesley.
Wesley Crusher?
Yeah.
He's here to save the podcast. You know what? I don't think even Wesley Crusher could do that.
I was about to say, I think, I don't think that's what he's going to do.
You know, as much as I hated Wesley Crusher when I was watching Next Gen, when it was first on,
yeah,
I love Will Wheaton. Mm-hmm. The guy is hilarious. And he has made a career out of kind of mocking Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
Not mocking him so much, but he's kind of mocking the stereotype that so many people have of Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher.
Yeah, yeah.
The fact that he has popped up on Big Bang and made such a nice niche for himself is really cool. So
yeah, he also has a series on YouTube where he plays board games with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like he did not do them all. He stopped after a certain point, but there is, I think it was called Dispatches from the Future, where he talked about his memories of each episode of Next Gen. Mm-hmm. And it's of course, now that he's not on the show anymore, he can be honest.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them where it's like, it's like he'll be talking about an episode and he'll talk about a scene that Wesley's in. And the way he acts is like, good Lord, what an annoying little brat.
Yeah.
I almost said something else. Annoying little brat. And he was like, oh, thanks for making me look that good. I mean, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
They're absolutely hilarious. Yeah, I love Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton is, I would have never, with Stand By Me and then Next Gen, I would have never thought that the person that he is now was in there. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad because I thoroughly enjoy him. Let's move on. That was our last letter. Mm-hmm. Okay, we actually have one more letter, and this is an audio letter. And you've heard this listener before. This is, by the way, this is an edited version of the letter. It's actually like a 3-minute letter, but I've chopped it down. We're going to do a link to because this is think of it as a YouTube letter that I pulled the audio from. And I mean, he sent it to us specifically for us to do that. If you want to hear the entire letter, we're going to put a link to it so that you can go to it. This is an excerpt, and this is Thomas Eccles.
Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas Eccles, aka Tommy Freckles. I found a mod called the Extraplanetary System mod, and basically what it does is it adds extraplanetary systems, and if you continuously leave the system, you'll just keep going forever. Well, now if you keep going, then if you keep scrolling out on your mini-map, or map mode, then you'll eventually find more solar systems or curb systems, whatever. So yeah, that's a pretty cool mod. It does use a lot of RAM. I had to download Kerbal Space Program, another version of Kerbal Space Program for it though. It still runs on 0.25. It's a bit glitchy with 0.90. You need a lot of RAM and things for your computer to be able to run it. Anyway, guys, that's all from me now. I will speak to you later.
All right, thank you. Again, Thomas Eccles. We'll post a link to the full YouTube.
Yeah, you can see the full thing on YouTube. And
because he had posted, he mentioned that, for example, he's got a mission underway, and he talks a little bit about that as well. What's kind of cool, this is the first time I've actually ever seen one of our listeners.
Yeah.
We get audio letters and we get text letters. This is the first time I've been able to see one. Aside from, I say, DK does a series.
Yeah, he has his own full YouTube channel.
And I can see him, but I can usually see him about postage stamp size. Mm-hmm. This is full screen. And while he's talking, I'm sitting there looking, and in the background, what do I see? I see, on one side of him, I see a hockey poster.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, normal kid. And then and then next to him, I see another poster, and it's a Dalek. And I think,
oh, yeah.
Doctor Who fan. So I'm thinking, yep, normal kid right there, too. So anyway, he's into hockey and Doctor Who.
And Kerbal Space Program.
Or as far as I know, he's sharing a bedroom.
Yeah.
He has like an older brother who's really into hockey, and he's really into
I was thinking the other way around. He's like huge into hockey.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
It's probably true. Well, we had just talked about Elon Musk. He, of course, he's the brains behind SpaceX, the Tesla car. Very intelligent, very far-thinking individual. Reddit does the AMAs. Mm-hmm. Ask me anything. He did one this past week, and somebody asked him about Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah.
Now, there are multiple articles that were written about this. I just printed out one. If you want to go to Google, for example, and just type, Elon Musk, Kerbal, you're going to get multiple versions, different versions of the same story. The one that I found is QZ.com. And the title, you ready for this? Why Rocket Scientists Are in Love with a Goofy Rocket Simulation Game. Quote, we learned a lot about Elon Musk during his recent Reddit AMA. He gets about 6 hours of sleep a day. He's worried about computers taking over. He wants to explore Jupiter's moon, Europa, and he recently got a great pair of hiking boots from the Sports Authority. But perhaps the most interesting takeaway was that he loves the video game Kerbal Space Program. The CEO of SpaceX enjoys a game that lets you create your own space exploration program, from building mission control to designing the rockets to flying into space. When prompted on what SpaceX uses for testing software, Musk jokingly replied, quote, Kerbal Space Program. He went on to call the game awesome. Musk is not alone. Workers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab and the nonprofit rocket project. Oh, hey, we talked about this in the last episode. The nonprofit rocket project Copenhagen Suborbitals have both extolled the virtues of the game. NASA has even worked on a mission with Squad, the Mexico City-based game designers behind the game. Similar to the indie hit Minecraft, Kerbal's popularity seems to be growing as fast as the game develops. It only left alpha development a few weeks ago and has over 16,000 positive reviews on the video game marketplace Steam, a sizable Reddit community, and an active fan forum with over 120,000 members. It also has the most incredible podcast ever created, and we love it, and we would like to know their address so we can send them money. At the time of publication, the designers behind Squad were unavailable to comment on how many times the game has been downloaded. I know that question has been asked of them.
Yeah.
And they've always been very kind of, I won't say cagey, that's the wrong word, but they've always kind of deferred, it's like, how many times have it downloaded? A lot.
Some.
Yeah. More than one.
A few.
More than one. Why is the game so appealing to people who actually build rocket ships? Douglas Ellison, a visualization producer at NASA, told the Penny Arcade that it offers the freedom to try things you wouldn't in real life, that there's, quote, no real responsibility. Ellison said he's killed many Kerbals along the way, who hasn't, along the way to landing spaceships in the game on other planets, collateral damage that surely wouldn't go down well at his day job. Thomas Pedersen, lead strategist with Copenhagen Suborbitals, told The Guardian that, quote, games have gone far beyond real life for decades, allowing people to explore the realms of what's possible without consequences. Quote, it's why driving racers like racing games. He might be right on that one. Professional soccer players have been known to spend too much time playing FIFA football games, and Microsoft used to promote its flight simulator game as a training aid for pilots. Perhaps the same rule applies to forklift operators and European bus drivers. Again, the link to that is qz.com, and the title for the article, again, Why Rocket Scientists Are in Love with a Goofy Rocket Simulation Game. If you would like to learn more about this, be sure and get online, get onto Google, and check this out, because literally that is one article out of many.
Yeah,
there's quite a few.
Yeah, we always have like something new coming up all the time.
Did you get a chance to actually hear the Reddit AMA?
No.
I said hear.
Here,
like
you mean read it? Right?
Did you get a chance to read it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Elon Musk to me is so cool. I mean, I have seen him. I've seen interviews with him, and I've seen presentations that he's done, and there's just always kind of this. I don't know. The man is just cool.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain. And of course, he's also rich, so I'm trying to ingratiate myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, try to win him over.
I'm really bad. It's like earlier in the program, I was like begging Christopher Nolan. It's like, hey, Chris, set me up, man. And now, we've got Elon Musk, and I'm going, you the man, send me money.
This is coming from the guy also giving out dating advice.
Yeah, really. Do you remember, if I remember right, didn't Run Phil Run, one of our earlier contributors, one of the listeners from the beginning, isn't he interning with SpaceX?
I think so. One of our guys listening to us was. We've had some that have worked in, and we've had some that have interned at NASA also. I
know, do you remember Cody C?
Yeah.
He of the I shouldn't listen to Kerbalcast in the car because I'll start laughing and running and run into a tree. Mm-hmm. He works for NASA.
Yeah.
So that's cool, I think. Okay, well, do you want to move on?
Yeah. So
Okay.
coming up, we have our next episode of A Kerbal Life.
Yeah. This is written by Amy Kettlewell. A Kerbal Life is kind of a weekly radio serial we do. What happened? What happened in the last episode?
It's been a long week. Let me see.
It's been a long week.
So there was the big spectacular explosion.
Jeb was dead.
Jeb was dead. But they're handing out donuts.
They're handing out, and so Mission Control
Mission Control, and Jeb is back.
Jeb is back.
And everyone has donuts.
And
so let's see what happens in our newest episode of A Kerbal Life.
Following the tragic crash of Jebediah and Orbital 1, the KSP are celebrating a success today after Mooner 1 has achieved a stable orbit around Kerbin. The KSP have their sights set on the Mun and assure us that there will be no more catastrophes.
Lunar 1 to Mission Control. MC, are you certain there are parachutes on this one?
There certainly are, Jeb. Heck, I even added an extra 3 radio parachutes, so you can rest assured there.
Copy that, MC.
Okay, Jeb, begin a checklist. Set map view.
Map view displayed.
Nav ball overlay.
Nav ball displayed.
Click for Mun target.
Mun target selected.
Engine staging, set full throttle.
Throttle set.
Time acceleration, 10x.
Roger, 10x. Mission Control, checklist complete. Ready for go code on transmuter injection.
Roger that, Jeb. We copy checklist complete. Stand by for TMI go.
Standing by for TMI go.
Mission Control to Mooner 1, you are go for TMI. Repeat, TMI go for Mooner 1.
Copy that, MC. We are go for the Mun.
Remember, we have lots of options, but failure shouldn't be one of them.
Roger that, MC.
All systems are go.
MC, wait!
What is it now, Carmen? I know we have parachutes. I supervised 4 of them being attached myself.
Well, that's sort of the problem. We've loaded up Mooner 1 with science collecting pods for our first trip to the Mun, you see.
So, nothing wrong with getting lots of science, Carmen.
Yes, but then you added 3 extra parachutes and the administrator hasn't upgraded the VAB.
What are you telling me, Carmen? And what do you mean not upgraded? We've never needed upgrades before.
It was in an update, MC. That's why half the stuff in Mission Control has disappeared.
An update? You're not making sense, Carmen. Who updated it? What does that mean? Why is...
Anyway, we went over to the pot limit for the level 1 VAB, so to allow your extra parachutes, we had to remove some fuel.
So, let me get this straight. Jeb can touch down soft as anything, except he doesn't have enough fuel to actually get home?
Yes.
Why is it always something, Carmen? Couldn't the administrator just have upgraded the VAB?
We don't have enough funds, and apparently they decided testing a Sepratron at 27,028 meters at 527.472 kilometers per second was too boring.
Right. Well, okay, we're gonna have to chase after him and get him some more fuel.
Bob is the next curve of the 9, MC.
Okay, Carmen, send Bob after Jeb. We're gonna have to... rendezvous. Doc.
Kerbal Life was written by Amy Kettlewell with music by Lee Rosebeer. Jebediah Kerman and Kerbal Space Program were created by Squad. The game is available for purchase on Steam or KerbalSpaceProgram.com.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Every time that we talk about Rendezvous, does the dun-dun-dun music play in your head?
Always.
Okay.
It's like, okay, yeah, I want to go to Minmus. I need to dun-dun-dun. Oh.
I want, when I heard that, I thought, I wonder if every time we do that, Nos just like, wait a minute, what happened?
On to our next thing, we left off with a contest.
See, isn't that cool?
Was the contest dramatic or
what?
The contest? Apparently, this is a big deal.
Apparently, this is a big deal. Yeah, absolutely.
This is for Kerbal Control Pad. Is what I'm going to start.
It's custom control pad.
I'm going to call it Kerbal Control Pad. Okay, so what this is, you can put it on your iDevice, and you can. It's basically, you know how you could set up command keys for, like when you're playing the game, like to do certain things. Now you can set it up and actually do it on the touchpad on your iDevice. And so you can set up the different buttons and, say what they do. So instead of like trying to remember what your command keys are, you can just hit the buttons. So we were given 2 codes by Custom Control Pad, and we're going to go ahead and hand those out. So everyone that wrote in a letter saying, give me the code, we have your names on these delicious vanilla wafer-looking wooden pogs,
Here,
And-
let me do the dun 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 again. Okay, you ready?
Okay, for the contest. Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Guess it was the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, you
So-
know, I went. You remember I told you I went to Eve?
Uh-huh.
You know what the moon around Eve is, don't you?
I don't care anymore. I don't. So
Gilly.
Are you done? You done? No, don't. Let's stop it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have these little delicious vanilla wafer-looking
Wooden
pogs.
wafers. Don't try and eat them, please. Here, give me that.
It's good. It's got fiber.
Okay, what I'm going to do. Again, we've got all these we've got all these little wooden wafers in here.
Yeah.
And we've got them in here. They're completely random. And I'm going to shake them up real good.
Okay, that looks sufficient.
Which, by the way, is not a reference to She Who Must Not Be Named. Okay?
No.
I am not shaking it off. I am
No.
shaking it up.
Definitely not.
Okay, close your eyes.
Okay.
Put your hand out.
Oh man, no, we did Beginner's Minute a long time ago.
This is not Beginner's Minute.
All
Okay.
right.
Select a wafer.
Okay, I have
All
one.
right, who's our winner?
Our first winner, Ben from Brisbane.
All right. Dun, dun, dun.
So you'll be getting an email with the code soon.
Do you know, we read a letter from him last time.
Uh-huh.
And his name is Ben, and then his last name begins with the letter D, and so we said it was Ben D,
Yeah.
Ben D, and he said that didn't sound right. So from now on, call me Ben from Brisbane.
All right.
So anyway, okay. Well, do you want to do? I'll tell you what. You shake it up, not off, and
Okay.
I will do it. Okay,
All right.
my hands are okay. My eyes are closed.
Oh, no, hey, watch it.
What?
Watch where your hands are.
Watch what I'm grabbing. Yeah, that was another thing my
You just
girlfriend
grabbed all of them.
Well, I know,
You
but
just
see,
grabbed all.
I'm like mixing them up.
Oh yes, because your eyes closed and just shaking up wasn't good enough.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, I have one.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh.
Who is this?
Thank goodness.
Pixel Clef. All right.
All right. So
Sweet.
you are winners, and we have hidden the code somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle.
That's
so if
right.
you can find it,
Now we'll
good luck.
we'll be sending out emails. But we
that
won't
works,
we
too.
won't send them until we post this. But we will send out emails. Each one of you is going to get an email from us, and obviously each one will have a code. So congratulations, winners for the custom control pad. Can you say the names again? Because you've got the wafers.
Ben from Brisbane and Pixel Clef.
Woo! So congratulations, guys. Be looking for an email. Okay, well, that does it for episode 34 of Kerbalcast. Get ready. You have to do your line, okay? You ready?
Okay.
Set thrusters at 73%-ish.
Thrusters at maximum.
All right. And if you watch the YouTube video we were talking about, you'll understand exactly what we're talking about. It is a hilarious video. You've got to watch it. As always, we do want to thank our listeners. Especially, we got another comment on iTunes this past week.
Oh, cool.
So if you're leaving comments about us and you're helping us get the word out, thank you so much. That helps us a lot. Also, we want to thank our frequent contributors. Amy Kettlewell, as you heard, she writes and does a Kerbal Life for us every week. Also, we do want to thank Ascalon. He takes the audio and posts it on YouTube so that we can get the closed captioning. And we certainly want to thank him. And also, thanks to Thomas Eccles for sending in another audio letter. We're going to post a link to the full video on YouTube. But in the meantime, thanks to our listeners and thanks to our frequent contributors.
We also want to give a thanks to the moderators of the Kerbal Space Program and Kerbal Academy subreddits.
Which they might be mad at me right now.
Yeah, we forgot you last time. We're sorry about that.
Well, last time we were rushing to record last time, and so normally I sit down and write all this out, and properly formatted and all that other stuff. And last time it was like, we need to get this recorded, so it's like I grabbed a piece of paper and just started jotting things down.
Yeah.
And it was like, jot, 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 jot. And it was like, did I forget anything? And you're going, yeah, name of the program. Oh, yeah, Kerbalcast. So anyway, I apologize for skipping over last week, but the moderators at Kerbal Space Program and Kerbal Academy subreddit, they have a link on their front page to our program page. And if you're looking for good information or a good discussion about Kerbal, that's a good place to go.
All the music that you've heard is by Professor Soap. You can find him at facebook.com/Professor Soap.
Well, one exception. All the music that you've heard, except for the music that's in A Kerbal Life, that comes to us from Lee Rosevere. And for the very first time, I actually remembered to provide a link. Lee Rosevere, you can find all of his music at freemusicarchive.org/music/Lee_Rosevere. Rosevere is ROSEVERE.
And of course, we couldn't have this program if it wasn't for the makers of the game, Squad. So, if you ever want to get in contact with us, you can find us at kerbalpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us at Kerbalcast on Twitter.
And you can download episodes directly from kerbalpodcast.libsyn.com. Or, as I mentioned about the folks leaving comments, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, and you can find us on YouTube as well. So, anyway, that wraps it up for episode 34 of Kerbalcast. I am, as always, your LMP, Lunar Module Pilot Biff Aldrin, our Command Module Pilot, CMP
Nostromo.
Until next time, happy Kerbaling!